guys, and welcome back to TierSpec TV. While we've been away, Nisse has been hard at work on the Creeper. I think the last time this appeared on the channel, it was basically a chassis with some wheels. And there's been a lot more progress made since then, so that certainly warrants an update. So Nisse is going to take us through everything that has been done and the challenges he's faced and so on, and what's next for the Creeper.
So we are now finally back and getting slowly back into the game, but I just thought I'm going to do a quick update video on the Creeper because stuff have happened even though the camera haven't been on really. So I'm just going to take you through the whole car, what's done to it, and then after I've said everything I've done to it, we're going to go into the next upcoming problems, what I need to face next really. So I think first we can start uncovering everything here. And I've got loads of parts right over there we're going to try and put onto it. I'm going to talk you through some of the process I've been at it, and as well the bulk have been painted in the final color. There haven't been any testing or anything, I just took some time deciding what kind of color I wanted it to be. But yeah, this is where we're at now. First problem I hit last time you saw it was the engine mounts. I got them through Tomcat Motorsport in the UK. I sent them a picture of it, like really proud of my work, but they said they think the engine mounts are too small compared to the engine size because they normally do Rover V8s, and this guy weighs about 400 kilos dry with all the internals and stuff onto it, which is quite a lot compared to a Rover V8. So I beefed them up to quite bigger ones here. I welded onto it. As you can see, I just redid all the mounts here, so we got nice big rubber mounts, just up the standard way of getting some rubber mounts. You can kind of cup into a pipe, cut the pipe so it fits in length, just so the rubbers are touching each other, and then just a pipe from there on, and then two side bits. You put a bolt through it. Really nice and easy to do. Took me about, I think, just about a day to do the complete engine mount in this guy here. And they're really nice, really stable, and I think the angle is quite good on it, but only, you know, when we get everything done, we need to test it out and just throw it about and see if the engine mounts break on that part. Other than the engine mounting, the gearbox mounting, I've got a new rear axle because I got a Rover axle to start off with. Well, I'm pretty sure the Rover axle is going to be toast onto it, so I got a Salisbury rear axle, and these are quite rare in Denmark to get with the disc brakes on the side. So this is a disc brake one made from factory, which means it's going to be a lot better braking from it, but it looked really terrible when I got it, so I completely sandblasted the whole thing. Took a whole day because the sandblasting wasn't really that well up to the job. All the seals been replaced in their sides, otherwise everything inside of it is stuck, but I'm gonna get a new diff and an LSD diff, so we can do some mad skids. But the nice part of it, everything just fits up with the other parts I got, so the ball bearing here and the arms fit straight up. That was quite a big job to do, and the axle compared to the Rover axle, I could lift the Rover axle with no problem and bear it around inside the workshop. This guy, I could barely lift it. It's really heavy and really big. It's made for a 1 ton, pretty much the same ones are in the 101, so they're really sturdy, the Salisbury rear axle, which is pretty much just a Dana 60 made in the UK. So I've got that on, just need the brakes fitted and the LSD, and then that part is completely done. As you saw before, the suspension is the same. Got the -1, I might go further down, so maybe a -2 setup, but I have to see with the wheels and tire I'm going to be rocking to kind of get that sorted out. The next problem I hit after replacing the axle is the angle of the input from the axle compared to the LT230. I needed that to be the best angle I could get onto the LT230 because the problem with the other one was it kind of slightly off, and with that slightly off angle, the props or the prop shaft's going to get completely shattered on the first launch you do due to the UJ joints not be able to compensate for that much angle. So right now it's fitted pretty well. I had to lower the gearbox here quite some to make it so it's a bit steeper incline, but again it fits right up to the angle. So I'm really happy with that adjustment I did. I did also post some stories on Instagram when I did it back in the summer. So that I'm really happy with it. For the prop shaft, I'm gonna call or get onto Gwen Lewis and get those guys to make a prop shaft for it. I did also test it because you need to take measurements from all the different angles you can get the suspension into. So I pretty much took the the loader, put it onto the rear with a wood piece across, and then I just maxed out the axle until I hit the bump stop, so all the way down. Took a measurements all the way up just before the wheels lift off. Took the angles there and some measurements, so I've got everything, and everything seems just in spec as it is now. So that is all done pretty much. Just need that bit. For the clearance here, for the LT230, I just hit up shafts from Synchro gearboxes, and I need a rebuild kit for this guy. My only problem right now is I don't know if I can hit or get a electronic speedometer sensor fit in here. I might need to get a Defender TD5 one LT230 to make sure I can get an electronic speedometer fit into this guy, because I'm gonna feed it by a wire and not by a cable, which this guy is. And as well, I need to get the X-brake kit, which is just a disc compared to a drum brake, and just everything needs to be replaced inside. And we're gonna get a selector for 2- and 4-wheel drive, something that Synchro Gearboxes also sells. I think they're just in stock now. They're probably going to be out of stock just in a second. But that means that you can fix it so you get low range, high range, and diff lock is going to be 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive. So it's not going to be open diff or lock diff. That's the only thing you're going to swap around. That is done. Next up, fuel tank. Fuel tanks for this chassis is quite special, because you order this chassis from Designer Chassis in England. He's gonna make it for you, send it over, but a standard fuel tank is not gonna fit, because you got trailing arms, because I'm rocking the spiral suspension here, not the leaf suspension. So you need to hit up LE Sports and get them to fabricate a fuel tank. They already got everything, you just need to press order and you get it really quickly. And with that, I also ordered with the AN fittings on top, not the barb fittings, which is normally. Only problem with that is they get quite tall, as you can see, compared to the seat box. They need to be in the front, so I lowered it a bit, which is just gonna put the fuel tank lower to the ground, which is all good, because you know you want lower gravity point in the car like this. So I just fitted some pieces here to kind of space it out a bit, and fit some bolts onto it. And it is quite sturdy, which was my next problem, you know, how sturdy is it? And I'm about 88 kilos, and really, that's gonna hold up fine with about 50 liters of fuel. I don't know how big the fuel capacity is, it's quite small, and I might later on fit a secondary fuel tank somewhere in the rear load space of it. From there on, got some boards here from what they call YRM Metals, I think, Metal Solutions in England. Pretty much all the bolts that are stainless fitting onto it I got from those guys. And same, I got 2 of these, one from each side. Just had to trim them a tiny bit here to make it fit the 6-cylinder bulkhead, which is proudly sponsored from the Shield Chassis. Really nice product. Going over to the fuel system, which is about 80% complete now. We have got the this is the line out, so it's going to be sucking from this line down. Right here we've got the fuel lap filter, a pretty big one, mounted it right here, really nice. I can get to all the bolts, which is something you need to consider during a build like this. You need to be able to get to all the bolts, so you don't end up having to take the whole car apart to take one bolt out to put everything back together. So that's quite nice and neat, and it's reusable, so I can just take the filter out, put it into my ultrasonic cleaner and pop it back in, or buy another filter. From this line, everything is AN fittings at the highest quality, not anything Chinese. They're quite expensive as well, but I've got loads of them, so I'm just going to use everything from that package. From the fuel filter, under the bulkhead I have to do a tiny bit of cut here to make sure I can get the lines. I didn't want to run them inside here because I'm going to have the prop shaft, and MOT wise might be a problem, because that prop shaft breaks, it can maybe hit and damage the hoses here, so I want to run on top of it all the way down. As you can see, I've got both an inline, a return next to it, and I'm going to have brake lines next to it. So I've got plenty of space. Otherwise, I've got the other side cut here as well, so that won't be a problem. From this guy going into here, I've got the fuel pump mounted on this bracket, supporting the bulkhead to the chassis, and inline down here, connectors will be on top. And from here, fuel line going in with a nice, I want to get all the angles correctly, just so that's not going to be a problem, or they got a kink in the hose. Everything runs nicely, made a tiny support down here on the underside and into the fuel rail, which is a Plasma Man from Australia, CNC cut, very nice bit. Only thing I had to modify on it was back here. This bit was scraping, as you can see on the paint right there. Did a tiny bit of scraping onto it. So I had to plug that hole and take a tiny bit of material off it to make it fit. But right now I think even though as much as the engine can move, it won't be hitting the bulkhead itself. But that had to be done. Bottom bit is the stock one. Top bit is the Plasma Man one. And that just makes the fuel rail different, and also the intake goes in front instead of over the top of the engine. And also the injectors in the new injectors, Bosch injectors, are all going down there, and the stock loom will fit in perfectly. All the wiring, I have to get that done by a professional because I'm not qualified to run all these wires for it. But yeah, that's the intake, and the only thing we need right now is for the fuel return. You need a what's it called? A fuel regulator from this guy, and that needs to be sitting on the inner wing of the arch. I've got the fuel regulator. With that you can set the pressure, because you always need the double of what the turbo is putting in. So if the turbo is putting, let's say, 2 bar boost and you're running a 2 bar fuel injection, that's going to cancel out because the pressure is going to go in here and straight into the injector. So that's going to kind of like level it out, and you're going to run out because you can't get any fuel into the system. So that's the point of the fuel regulator. Once I've got that, I'm going to run a return line from here down onto the frame, back into the tank. Fuel system done for that part. So we've got filter, we've got pump, we've got regulator. That's it. Really simple. I might add something else later down the line, but right now that'll be fine. Throttle wise, I got this one with the kit. I'm going to switch it out to a electronic or fly-by-wire for it, and I'm going to get a fly-by-wire as well, so it's not electronical. And the only reason for that is I can get the idle control valve made or programmed through the ECU into this part. So this part is going to open and close, so I don't have to get a separate piece lined up to it for that. And that's the only reason I want to run the fly-by-wire. It's just going to make it a lot simpler and bolt-on solution compared to having extra fittings all over the engine bay to keep it as clean as possible. I need to replace this bit here. I kind of tried to make my own. This is for the cooling coming from the engine and the thermostat as well, sitting down here. But I need to redo this and then get a 90-degree angle and then tack weld it all the way around. That's pretty much the only thing for that part. During the engine mounts in the front, I found out that I need to get bigger bump stuff, because I've bump stops here for the axle. Flowflex makes some that are pretty much going all the way down to here, so I need to get 2 of those for the front, because right now it is possible for the engine to hit the axle under extreme conditions, but I could get over that just by getting some longer bump stuff for it. Should be fine. So that is the engine, the fuel system all done. Front axle, steering wise, just got some standard bars here from England, looking pretty nice, and also got the rear suspension set up. As it is a Range Rover Classic axle, you need to get the steering damper on the back of the axle and not in front here, which is why it would normally sit in a Defender. But that's back there, just a normal Terra Firma one, nothing special. Box here, steering box, I reconditioned this myself with a kit. It is leaking very slightly from the front here, I think. From this bit, or maybe it was up here, I can't remember, one of these two, and I hope it just needs to get pressurized and then all the seals would kind of like pop into place. But there's a thing that happens when you turn the engine off, no pressure into the steering box, then it'll start leaking because of the fittings and stuff, or the seals are kind of going backwards, and then it can start to leak. But if that happens, I'm just going to replace it for a box in England and get it reconditioned by professionals. But everything should be set up correctly. And for the fittings here, I'm running AN fittings. Everything's going to look very nice from a Pioneer 4x4. So these fittings that goes into the steering box, and the other side just standard AN fittings going into it. And same with the box here. We got a pressure line here fitting with an AN fitting instead of the normal bar fitting. Gonna look really, really nice. So it's gonna be in here for feed. In here for feed for the pump. Going from the feed from this guy into a pressurized into this guy, and then just normal return into the servo fuel holder from this guy up, or oil reservoir. Further up steering bar. in place, just a standard Defender steering one, and it is anti-collision, so if you run into anything you'll be able to retract this point, and also up here it's going to break and then it's just going to fall out to the side pretty much, so the whole steering doesn't get pushed right into my face. And that's something you have to think about when you're doing the MOT as well, or getting it all getting paper on everything, and have to be in regulations with that. And the steering here itself is just a standard Defender steering column going up to it. I have to modify it a tiny bit to fit it later on, with all the things going on to the the turn signal and long lights, fog lights, everything. Not fog lights, but all those controls I have to modify a tiny bit to make it fit. Mounting wise, I mounted it right here. I've seen other people on the internet doing that as well. On this, I can't remember what it's called. It's like a support for the bracket or the bulkhead as well. Just welded it in here on the sides and did a support bracket here, so this is very sturdy. Like, you need immense force to pull this off, so the steering is going to be all fine. Modified a tiny bit here just to make it sure I can get it as close as possible, and the angle of the measurements from here to here should be about the same, so the angle should be feeling like a series angle there. Clutch wise, just got a normal clutch reservoir in here. Quite like to get a LOF clutch fitted at some point, or reservoir fitted here, because this part up here is going to be a Land Rover, and then going into the gearbox with the PMC conversion kit from the BMW box to the Nissan Skyline engine, going to be running as that is. So Defender up here, or Land Rover up here, and then conversion kit down there. But everything is lined up, and also got pedal on here, so everything actually works on the clutch wire. Just need to run the wires and fill it up. Brake wise, I need the brake servo booster sitting on front of it, and I need to get the Santana one because that's an 8-inch. The standard series is a 6-inch. Standard Defender one is also an 8-inch, and Santana did make one that just fits straight onto the series and is high quality, made in Europe, not some Chinese stuff. So I'm gonna get one of those fitted here sometime in the future. But I've got everything painted, all the brackets for it, and all new the bearing inside and the pedal. I'm gonna show that later. Everything painted. I just need the booster to throw on there. And brake wise, I'm going to be running the LOF brake kit all around the biggest brake I can fit with the wheels I want. Haven't ordered those yet, they'll be somewhere here in the future. Going back here, steering right now, as you saw when we drove out, it's just a vice clamp onto it, because it is a 36 spine, I believe. I need to get a steering wheel for that, but everything fits nicely in here. I'm going to get the interior done at some point on it. Again, everything in here gonna look at box standard. Gonna have the throttle over here, and it's gonna be electronical, so no wires run to it. Gives a bit more flexibility on the position of it. And I need to get one with the metal bar going down to the pedal, so this bit needs to be metal for me to be able to cut it, manipulate it a tiny bit, and re-weld it so it fits the steering box here in the series. And gearbox, I show you, BMW GS6, made for diesel, fits fine on the Nissan Skyline with a conversion kit from a PMC Motorsport. Do a nice conversion kit, and again synchro gearboxes conversion kit from the box to this bit, and then to the Land Rover LT230, and that's going to be upgraded, sleeved, everything, so it can handle the power. Power wise, right now still going for about 400, and I emailed the guys, the only guys in Denmark that are able to make this car road legal, called Autoconsult in Denmark. Emailed those guys and said it is possible to register this guy as a hot rod in Denmark, and with that I'm actually also able to run about 400 brake horsepower, which is awesome. I don't know what the drawback is, but there's going to be some kind of drawback saying you're only allowed to drive in certain months of the year, but it's a start no matter what. So I'm gonna have a meeting with them at some point here in the winter period, and ask them where I'm going with this build and what I need to get done to it. Next up, I think we should have a look at the color on it. As you see it right now, it might look a tiny bit black. It's also very dusty and got bird poop on it and everything. I think we should go over here. You can actually see color a bit better. But color wise, really awesome color I went with, I think myself. The first one I wanted was just a standard gray, but on my way up to the painter I saw so many gray colors, like Nardo gray, dark gray, light gray, I don't know, all the different kind of schemes in gray, and I thought every other car is just gray, and I thought it's kind of boring color. I thought it would look really nice for this build, but then I went to the complete opposite direction and went down, what about Midnight Purple, Spec 3, awesome color. But the price on that would be insane, insanely high, because that's pretty much 3 different layers you need to get down. And top of that, because most of the parts are galvanized, you need to get an epoxy resin sprayed on first. So that's 4 layers for that type of paint. And if I scruff it or make a mark on it, it's going to be so expensive to repair. That was the painter said to me. And then we went through, he had all the colors that Nissan have ever done to their car. And I found this color. I said I wanted a purple, very deep purple, but when you look at it, it's going to look like black. But when you take it out in the sun and everything is polished up, you're going to see a slight change in color onto this purplish. So that is kind of what we went with. And on top of that, we made it the Creeper's own color, so I got a bit of flake in there as well. I'm not really huge fan of the flakiness, but after I saw it in this color here, I just thought it was straight on perfect.
Can you shine a light?
Yeah. And it is only when the sun kind of hits onto it. So slightly bit of color here and the flakiness of it.
It's really difficult to get on camera.
Yeah.
I can assure you it is a very dark purple with a flake in it.
Exactly. That's kind of the point of it, because right now when you go and again, it's not the complete car right now, it's just the bulkhead painted in there, but you get the whole car, it's going to look black. You get closer to it, you get this purple color. And also when you drive at night, it's going to look dark, but when you go under the street lights, you're going to see this purple and the sparkliness coming out. Really, really impressed and happy with the color I went for. In the perfect world, it would have been a Midnight Spec 3, but again, the cost of it is going to be insanely high. So that might be for the next build once we hit 2 million subscribers and we're going to do a dream build each. I'm going to go with Midnight Purple, definitely. So that is kind of where we are at now. Front axle need to get beefed up, rear axle need to get beefed up. The LT230 taken apart, new seals and bearings, and I'm going to get it what's it called, reinforced as well with the steel ring. Gearbox, not gonna touch that. Clutch, already a Spec 3 dual clutch plates, that's gonna hold up fine. And the engine is pretty much also complete. I got a kit so I can run the cooler lines into the radiator as well. So I think next part here we're gonna look at what's the challenges up next, what needs to get done further down the road. And first off, I think we're gonna start in the front here, because we got a front from the red series in there. We're going to try and put this on, just so you can kind of get an impression of what I'm talking about. I've already measured it and it fits fine in here, but I haven't got a lot of space for cooler and intercooling, which is needed. So place it just about, let's fill this way up here. So yeah, about there is where the front is going to be at. Of course that's going to be painted in the same color, and I'm going to get it galvanized. That's the part down here is the first thing to rust, and you can also see we've got replacement piece on this guy. So that's going to be taken care of. We'll go and grab a standard TD5 intercooler here. From I think this is from my Dash one, so this is a TD5, not a Discovery. But that's going to be mounting inside of it and just fits within the confined space of the fenders of the wings. But this one mounting in here requires it to be quite high, but I've got a bit more thickness to work with because I'm going to be placing it all the way at front, as much front as I can get, which gives me a lot of space for actually getting in an upgraded intercooler. So intercooler wise, I'm going to go with Sport. They already make one from the M57 conversion, OM606 conversion. I'm just going to get that one fitted as well. The only problem is going to be the height wise, because they're going to be hitting the steering box at some point. So I need to get as high as possible, but in this kind of size here, up and down wise, but thickness I can go a bit bigger. So that's going to be the plan of it. And I'm going to get a custom made radiator for it, because that needs to get moved over to the side. I need to fill the whole space up for it. And in the radiator I'm going to get the oil cooler fitted as well. It's like a standard TDI engine with it. Wings wise, I got one right now, second hand inner wings. I'm looking out for another one. I want them in plastic and not in metal, because these cannot rust, which is very nice, and they're lightweight and quite easy to do a sound proofing on them, a sound dampening on it. Of course I do need the inner wings because I got this bit here, which is for the strut towers. So this guy meant to go somewhere onto here and down. So I need to make that fit somehow, a bit up and down, just about here where it will be fitted. Which is one thing I also need to consider doing the steering. The steering needs to be in place so it doesn't rub onto it. So I have to make a tiny bit of spacers out. So just about there actually, it needs to be placed. And then also make sure that I can get into it and can swap the suspension out if I ever needed to do that. So I've got one wing here, one on the other side. The other side is going to be a bit more problematic with the intake. Might have to modify that a tiny bit to get an angle on it straight away as it comes out. But that's going to be one problem to look out for. I've got the side bits here for it, which for those of you remember, we got a huge box which is right over there from Get Off-Road, just when they started up their business. They were so kindly to sponsor us with loads of different parts. And one of those is a wing made out of plastic, which means that you can't really dent it on the same way as you can as a normal one. Because the normal aluminium ones you can actually dent it, and when you dent it it's really easy to see in the color scheme. But I got these in plastic, still need to cut out for the Defender indicators here, but they fit perfectly onto this project. And I've got all the fittings for it as well to be going on, so something like that is going to be fitting there. And with it, I need the top bit. I found one company making it in England out of aluminium sheet. So I need to get that bit on because I want it to be completely dent free. And the front bit is also sponsored by getoffroad.com, which goes in front here, brand new. Needs to get that painted as well. So new. So all the surfaces are going to look completely clean going down to it. But yeah, so I got the parts, just need to get them painted really, and they're fitted, but it's going to look pretty cool. For the skirts coming out, gonna get some wider ones because I'm running a very wide setup for it, so it's gonna look very beefy on top of that. But that is kind of like the skirt wise. I've got the seat box over there, mounting that, need to get it sandblasted and painted. Got the footwells, doors, need to get those galvanized as well, or some kind of rust proofing onto it. And the top on it, I've got one top over there. Yeah, I think I'm going to be using that one. I think we got another top somewhere up there by the next barn, but the one that is best, I'm going to be using that. Might replacing the sides on it as well, just to get them completely straight. And get the cappings galvanized. They're going to be painted black. And all the door hinges as well on the car is going to be painted black. So we got this contrast going in between them. And then the top itself is going to be painting in this color here, which is going to be awesome, and have a wooden floor like a expensive boat, like an old classic boat with the rubber lines in between, and a nice teak tree, which is for the future. Next up, turbo. Turbo won't fit because of the steering and the way the engine is mounted, running the GeForce GT3076R, I think it is. Turbo cable of about 550 600 brake horsepower, but fitting that won't do with the stock manifold I've got, so they have to be remade. The only problem is the downpipe won't fit on the one I've got now, so I need to get the turbo further forward here, fitting about this position. And again, as you can see, the bonnet is all the way up here, so I'm going to actually mount it quite high up to make sure I can get the downpipe going into it and heat wrap that and everything. Got all the lines for it, also AN fittings. The cooling of the turbo comes from this side, and also the heater from this side. I've got awesome AN setup I'm quite proud of. I found here like loads of different fittings and stuff, but this thing will go onto it. So this is turbo, and this is gonna branch out, and they'll go into the heater element and into the thermostat as well from this side here. But yeah, there's huge one here, and a fitting as well that fits onto the engine. I might actually already have it on. We'll have a look down here. Yeah, I already got some. This guy's going to be sitting all the way in here on top of the starter. So like in there. Which is all good. And again, the starter, really easy to replace. Make sure everything is in stock. Might have to take the intake off, but you can do that and with the wing onto it, with the Defender inner wing, not going to be a problem getting to it. The same as service-wise. So yeah, that is just about where I am at. Otherwise, as you can see, parts are going to be looking like this. Again, it's a bit dusty, but nice, freshly painted. This was pretty much as rusty as the heater matrix, which you can see over here. All the parts were looking like this. So it does take quite a lot of manpower to get it to look from this to this kind of scheme here. But this is going to be the next thing. We're going to redo new heater core and everything and get that mounted. Yeah, and pedal box, everything, new rub on the bottom bit here, looking really nice. But still bit of way to go, but we actually got rolling chassis, and I'm not going to be taking it apart. It is now just going to be staying like this. The hard parts are mounted, you know, the power pack is mounted, just need to align everything up with it. But it's a huge show to do this rebuild. Especially one thing is doing a series, you know, a complete stock series. You can get drawings, you get measurements for everything, but doing this is really a mind bender. As I just told you, my brain kind of works in a 3D program. If you're doing like 3D scanning or anything, if you try to put an object into another object and it collides, it kind of turns red. That's kind of what I'm doing right now, trying to see if things will fit. They turn red, then I have to modify it in some case, make it longer, shorter, another angle and stuff. So just putting the fuel tank in took about 2 days to make sure everything fit up and all the fuel lines, figuring out where I have to place the different filter and the pump and everything.
Hang on.
So I've been talking for about 30 minutes now and the camera overheated, so we're gonna cut it here. But as you can see, I'm very excited for this project. I've done a lot of work onto it, and I can't really afford not to finish this project. I put so much money, like in here is enough money to pretty much buy a new, not the new Defender, but a second-hand Defender, more or less, and haven't even said anything except for me just swearing at it. So as it is right now, we're gonna continue on the project. We're gonna do a series on the rebuild on the LT230, getting that sleeve and everything. We're gonna do the fuel system, turbo wise and intercooler and stuff, and the interior as well. I'm gonna get that done. But I've got all the parts and I pretty much know where everything goes for it. Just need the fittings and so on. So it is more or less planned out now. Just need time and money and energy to continue doing it, because it is a side project. I'm doing quite a lot of work right now, and when I get back, I live about an hour's drive from here, so I can only work on it in the weekends or holidays. But as it is right now, I'm getting quite far. I'm quite happy with it as it is. But that's it for this video. Just quick run out what's happening. We're not dead. We are just holding a bit of a break, but things are happening right now. So we will catch you up later, and hopefully doing more creeper stuff related to the car and projects on it. So we'll see you next time.